church. Welcome to the Just Like You podcast. We're on episode 2 right now. Welcome back. For those of you watching, if you're on YouTube here, how it works is we're filming 2 in a row. We're kind of filming back to back just so we have an episode every week to air. So that's why I'm wearing the same outfit. Just a heads up. Another heads up, if it looks like I'm looking off into space, I can hear MJ in my ears, and sometimes he talks really quiet, and I'm trying to understand what he's saying to me. So, just so you know what's going on, but welcome, church. We're on episode 2. Last time you got to hear a little bit about me and my story, and I was here with Laura. But today we're going to hear from one of Mac Region's very own, Mr. Caleb. Caleb, I always have such a hard time with your last name, Bezuyen. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, welcome. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me. This is sweet.
Yeah, no problem. So we are just trying to figure out how it's going to work doing some interviews remotely. So bear with us if you're listening, if you're watching. We're doing the best we can here. But yeah, welcome, Caleb. So I sent you some questions beforehand just to go over so I'm not sneak attacking you with anything. But I actually am going to start by a little sneak attack icebreaker question. I was thinking how to start off the podcast, but I have a very, very important question for you. If you're getting ice cream, are you a waffle cone, a sugar cone, or a cup individual, and why?
Okay, I'm definitely not a sugar cone person. I'm either a waffle cone person or a cup person. And it depends. Oh yeah, no, this is tough. I think if it's like a hot summer day, it's a waffle cone vibe, but like if I'm like grabbing it to go or like gonna hop back in the car, I kind of don't want to get ice cream all over my car, so we go with the cup. So
that is fair. If you're driving after getting ice cream, that's a big concern.
Yeah, otherwise it gets everywhere, and I want to keep my car kind of clean.
Have you ever done, like, you put it in a cone, then you, like, put the whole cone in a cup?
That's like the McDonald's Sunday hack right there. Because you get more.
You do. It's better bang for your buck. It really is. Well, good. I think the church would benefit from knowing the answer to that.
Some profound wisdom right there.
Okay, so first actual kind of content question for you. We kind of our central theme that we're going to get to, we're going to hear a bit about Caleb's story, and we're going to kind of hear about how he was maintaining connections with Lift family throughout the summer, and what transitioning from church family to home family, what that kind of looks like. But to get into hearing about your story, I just want to hear about what was the most influential piece of scripture for your faith walk, and why.
Okay, I have to double check. This is one of the questions you gave me, but I have to double check where it's from because I kept saying 1 Corinthians. Okay, no, it's 2 Corinthians 12, 9-10. And it says like, for my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast in my weaknesses boast in my weaknesses, for when I am weak, then Christ is strong to me. So I don't know. It's been like something that I think I found like just in my own quiet time in the Word, and I think it's been something that's been so powerful for like in my life because it reminds me that like it's actually in my weaknesses that I might not be proud of that God often uses us. Like I was thinking about like when I first read it, I was like thinking about like Moses and how he wasn't a good public speaker, and then he used like that weakness and made him like the leader of Israel. And so it kind of reminds me that like while we might be self-conscious about our weaknesses, God uses them for like more than we could ever imagine.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks. I feel like that's sometimes a hard question to be put on the spot for.
Yeah,
but,
I need to prep for that one.
Which is why I'm like, no, that's always one of my biggest fears is I'm going to misquote scripture, or I'm going to like point someone in the direction of a very wrong book.
Yeah.
when I'm giving an answer. So, anyways, good to double check on those. But yeah, that's good. Thanks. We'll just kind of dive into, yes, just some more of the content of the episode. And I think our church family just wants to know a little bit about you. First, like before we get into your story, just what kind of undergrad you took, where you're at now. I mean, we know each other. I know you're going to physio school, all that stuff. But for people that may have never met you before, just a little bit about yourself, what you like to do in your free time, what you're doing for school, everything like that.
Cool. Yeah. So I actually just finished my undergrad degree at Mac for kinesiology, and then got into and accepted a master's of physiotherapy at U of T, which is really exciting. Outside of school, I play a lot of guitar. I like to, I don't know, be active, whether it be like working out or like, I don't know, just doing something fun with some friends. I'm actually planning a wedding right now, which you would know.
Let's go.
Yeah. So my fiance Noelle and I both go to Lyft, and we are planning our wedding for August. So that takes up a lot of my free time right now, not gonna lie.
Oh,
But
I bet.
yeah.
I know I heard she put you in charge of all the administrative work.
Yeah,
and
all the applying
and
for permits and to be married and all the stuff that requires paperwork.
Yeah. Which is a lot.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think it's a lot, but it is.
They make it kind of tricky to get married, I'm not gonna lie. But I think I figured it out.
No, it's true. Good. Good. Well, that's awesome. You're in a very exciting season of your life, and that's great.
For sure.
It's been really cool to watch. For people that don't know, his fiance is my roommate, so it's pretty cool. I've gotten to know Caleb quite a bit through Noelle, which is really cool. But just kind of seeing you guys and where you are in your faith has been really, really great over the past couple of years of friendship. But anyways, let's kind of move it on to, like, we heard a little bit about you and the life stage that you're at right now, but let's just maybe rewind a little bit and hear more about your story and how you came to Christ and just your faith background.
Yeah, so I don't know, a very common theme with like a lot of Christians is like growing up in a Christian family, and that's kind of like my story too. So I've been blessed to like be a part of a Christian family and like generations of God's faithfulness, where like I think my great grandparents were Christians and stuff, which is really cool. And yeah, so growing up in a Christian family, like I went to church a lot, and my mom worked at a Christian school, so I went to that elementary school, and it was like through that I got exposed to Christianity, and I think like led to me kind of realizing that I want to commit my life to Christ pretty early on. Yeah, and then I don't know, it was one of those things where like I never fully took it seriously, and like I think I just didn't fully have a grasp on like what it meant to make my faith my own. And then through like high school and stuff, like I kind of just wasn't as interested in my faith. Like I still was a Christian and would like help out at church and stuff, but I just kind of found that I don't know, I kind of strayed from God a little bit and wanted to just see what the world had for me. And yeah, and then once, honestly, like it took kind of leaving the house and like moving to Mac, where God was able to show himself to me in a bit more of a real way, because I was kind of out of the shelter of like my family home where like everything's kind of comfortable. And so I think God used that opportunity to like break down some of that comfort seeking mentality that I had and kind of show me what it means to make my faith my own. And that's kind of brought me to now, but yeah.
And it's always it's such a common part of people's stories, especially when you have like a background of faith, but really just taking that step to make your faith your own and to have the space maybe from your family of origin to think about, why do I believe what I believe, and is that the same or a little bit different from my parents, and really how do I want to act that out in my life. Yeah, that's great. I know you're kind of getting there with your background story, but how did you find Lyft, and how has that process been of like integrating into this church?
Yeah, so I actually connected with I kind of connected with someone from like years and years before I actually went. So me and Evan Saab, also from Mac, huge shout out. We both worked at this camp called Fairhavens. And at the time, we weren't each other's biggest fans. I don't know. I mean, we both talk about like this fight that we got in that we don't know why we got in it. But that was like 8 years ago. And then
I've never heard this.
Yeah, it happened. I don't even know why. It wasn't anything like, no hands were thrown, but yeah. So yeah, then I think during COVID, I was at home. It was like November or something, and I got this DM from him, and he's like, "Hey, I hear you're going from Mac to Mac." I'm like, "Oh, cool." And he's like, "I have a small group you should join." Like, kind of explain what Simple Church was via Instagram, and then like sent me a Discord link and was like, "You should join." And so for the my first year, I was joining online, which was kind of weird, but it kind of kickstarted the whole process. And then like from that, I was introduced to a pretty sick Simple Church of like Max Turek, Mark Cruz, like all the guys, Brennan Panache.
Big shout out to the guys.
So, and they were kind of like, I don't know, I didn't have a huge community of Christian guys back home. And so like to be able to be integrated into such like a brotherhood like that kind of showed me more about like I see church as and like what church should be.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like COVID, it plays into everyone's stories about like their faith in university in such different ways, depending on like your first year was in COVID, my second year is in COVID, but having that transition to university be fully online is such a unique experience that really only your year fully had.
Yeah, it
like,
was.
I think even the year after you was partially in person, but
yeah, it was a crazy. I don't know, it was kind of crazy because I didn't find out that I wasn't going to school until after I applied to res, and like so I had some time to process. But I honestly think that like it, as much as it sucked, it was one of like a blessing in disguise from the Lord, because like it kind of forced me to just take a bit of time to like grow up a little. And like I don't know, maybe I wasn't fully ready for university at the time, but it kind of showed me like what it meant to be a bit more of an adult. And it was an easier transition because I didn't have to go through like the residence life and the figuring out how to cook for myself. I could kind of like adjust into that at home, which was nice. But yeah, like I mean, how many years has it been? 3-4 years later, it's like it's kind of cool to look back and see how like God was faithful in that time and the blessings that came out of it. Still wasn't the most fun, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, COVID wasn't. No, definitely not the most fun time. Yeah, that's great. So online Simple Church for the first little bit. When was it, would you say, like how, so you had that first full year online, and then when did the real like in-person kind of integration with the church community start for you, and what was that process like?
Yeah, so I started coming out in second year to like in-person stuff. I think we're at that point, the Mac region was in Westdale United Church, which was like a 5-minute walk from my house. And like I said, like the guys that I had kind of met online were really good at like reaching out to me every Sunday and being like, "Hey, are you coming?" Or, "Hey, can I pick you up even though you're like 2 minutes away? I'll pick you up from like church and pick you up." But yeah, so that, I don't know, that was one way that they kind of like pushed me to join in and be integrated. But I think like it took me kind of till January to fully like accept that, or like transition from my church back at home that my family went to like Lift Church, just because I don't know, it was a whole new thing of like moving away. And so it took a bit of time, but I think it was just something where I realized that like I want to be like, I realized how many times I'd missed Simple Church and like huddle or missed a gathering, and I realized that like I want something I want to like be a bit more committed to. And that was kind of a New Year's resolution, but like not, because I made it in like the end of January. But yeah.
Oh, New Year's resolution. I feel like
I have a list of those that I haven't done.
I think of like the end of December just being like you're reflecting on the year, you're making these ambitious goals. Second week of January, you've forgotten half of them.
Oh yeah. I still have like 3 books that I meant to read this year, and I'm only halfway through the first one.
So fair.
I still have time.
Yeah. When we're filming this, it's end of May, but when it's being released, it's end of June. maybe we'll have a goal that by the end of June you'll have a book finished.
I can do that. I think I can do that.
There you go. Okay, that's good. So second year, and it's kind of weird because things really opened up slowly, from the pandemic and kind of eased off on those restrictions, and even like it was a while before it really like everything opened up. So integration, it probably took a little while, but in terms of, so you're saying in like January of second year, you're really is when you started to feel like this was your church, and like you would maybe call it your home church, and or you were back and forth between your actual home in Hamilton. But how was that transition like when you're going home for the summer? And can you give us a little background on what your home church in Newmarket versus in Hamilton, like even the church cultures, how are they different, and how was that transition?
So it's like the nice thing was like I stayed in Hamilton pretty much most weekends. Just I worked at school, and so I kind of didn't have weekends off, and so I was able to just start to get a bit more plugged in with Lyft. And I think that like it did come at a bit of an awkward time where I moved back home just at the end, like after 4 months. I was like, yeah, I'm really integrated here, and then let's move back home. But I think it was a little easier for that transition because my church was back at home was going through some, just like a couple of pastoral changes, and there was just a lot of turnover at the time. And so it was easy for me to stay connected at Lyft and like to come back home. And I don't know, it didn't really feel like my church back at home was my home church at that point, just because so many people had come and gone. But yeah, I think so coming back for that summer, it was challenging for sure. And like, I think it took a little bit of intentionality from my simple church leaders like Evan and Max, and to really make that transition smooth. Like I know Evan and I would chat regularly, and like how they'd check in and just say like, hey, how's things? How can I pray for you? And just talk a little bit. And so that made it a lot easier. There were times where it was a little isolating, but I think the one or like good thing that came out of that was like it taught me to be a bit of a self-feeder. I think at that point in my like Christian walk, I had been kind of dependent on just what the church was giving me, and not like doing my own stuff on the side. Like I would read my Bible, but I wouldn't really like, it was just a thing to check off the list. And so I think like over that summer, God really worked on like in my heart and was like, you need to learn how to be a mature Christian and self-feed. And I think that was something that like Daily Devos really helped with, but also like I know Evan was really strong in pushing forward like all these podcasts to listen to. And so it kind of spurred me on.
Boys love their
He's
podcasts.
a big podcast guy. I don't think one huddle goes by where we don't plug something from a podcast.
What's the go-to?
Right now it is Becoming Something with Jonathan Bacluda or Harris Creek Baptist Church. I knew you were going to
say that.
It's literally just how half our huddles are based off stuff from there.
Oh.
But yeah, it was...
Somehow I knew exactly what you were going to say.
I'm sure you've been sent one or two of them.
I've been sent multiple. Yes. Yeah, that's great. So you kind of mentioned that it's because of the intentionality of your simple church leaders, which is so encouraging to hear. Like that's such a goal of simple church, is for like the members to feel integrated, even if they're not physically there. And it's really encouraging that has been fulfilled and lived out in your life, and that's really contributed to your walk. That's great. Yeah, that's awesome to hear. Now that you're a simple church leader yourself, how has your past of really being encouraged and like having those simple church leaders that were really intentional with you, how do you now try to live that out with like keeping your simple church alive during the summer with the transition of some people moving home?
This year was kind of tricky. We have a very young simple church, a lot of guys in like first and second year, which is exciting, but it just means that like, yeah, a lot of us move home. And I think like the biggest thing for what I at least tried to do like last summer between third and fourth year was just try to like replicate that intentionality, like reaching out to guys
Mm-hmm.
regularly and just seeing how things are and like how I can be praying for them and just encouraging them to do the
Mm-hmm.
same. I think that like the whole thing, one of the main like pillars of simple church is that you're like you're close to people and like in each other's business. And so I think it's still possible to do
In a
that
good
from
way.
home. Yeah. But yeah, like it's definitely still possible to do that from home. And then I don't know. At first,
Right.
I took me being like, man, I am so annoying. I need to like let these guys have some space. But I don't know. It just reminded me of like sometimes it's okay to kind of like be within like in someone's life and be like very like intentionally in their life. And so I think
Yeah.
it was. I think when like my simple church leaders were able to show that to me, it was easy for me to go and replicate that. And I think they might not even
Right.
realize how much I took from that, but it was definitely something that was like
Mm-hmm.
really influential.
Mm-hmm. And that so naturally like follows the discipleship pathway of um you're shown this intentionality and you're shown this the leadership qualities that you can then emulate
Mm-hmm.
once you are a couple steps forward in your faith. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's so encouraging. That's great. um are there any Sorry, I'm just in my head because I can hear myself saying a lot. Just still getting used to this podcast life, everyone. But do you have any advice that you have for individuals who live at home or who have transitioned? Like now we're posting this in June, so it'll be kind of middle of the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Some people will be at home and probably at this point feeling a little less connected, maybe looking forward to the retreat to see everyone again, but or this might be right after the retreat, I don't know. But what kind of advice do you have on maintaining connections, whether it be for leaders or for those who are members and are at home and don't feel integrated? What would you suggest for them to keep Simple Church alive?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely like it's definitely a challenge. So don't be
Yeah,
like I don't know. I feel like the one thing I have to remind myself is like don't be hesitant. Like right now we're doing virtual simple church with the guys who are at home, and like if only
right.
two guys show up, it's okay. It's not because of
Yeah.
you, but yeah, I think the first bit of advice is like I said, to be intentional about reaching out. It can be kind of scary because you feel like, man, I'm just being annoying, texting them like once a
Mhm.
week or like. But I guarantee you that that message is welcomed and that like I don't think anyone in
Mhm.
our church would turn down an opportunity for someone to pray for them. And so I think
No.
like
Yeah.
yeah, I think that God really does move even when you're not close, and like God is everywhere all at once. And so like I don't know. I truly believe that like my life has been benefited from the prayer of people who are like praying for me in Hamilton while I'm in Newmarket, or the guys who I'm praying
Right.
for. Like I feel like God definitely is benefiting their
Mhm.
lives with that. And so yeah, like even if it's just like for me for a while, it was just on Mondays I text the guys in my simple church, or on maybe like
Mhm.
on Mondays I give this guy a call. And so like setting up a rhythm
Right.
so that it's like in your because I find I often just forget or like it misses my like it skips my brain. And so like being
Yep.
able to like be like on Monday I'm gonna text, Josh and be like, hey, how's things? How can I be praying for you? It helps to like
Mhm.
keep that intentionality and like keep that a regular thing. And I
Yeah.
guess I don't know, I have one other thing is like to encourage those people who are at home is that like a lot of my story is that when I was at home, like I learned how to be a self feeder and I learned how to like
Mhm.
I don't know, take my faith into my own hands, even when I was away from people.
Mhm.
And then I think that like if you can see that as this summer as like an opportunity to do so and to like practice these things that you learned throughout
Mhm.
the year, I feel like a lot
Right.
of good can come from that in your spiritual life.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And that's the thing, like we have daily devos, which is it's
Yeah.
great. It can be it can be a great like starting off point of okay, a reminder to get into the scripture.
Yeah.
Um but you can be fed so many different ways. The Lord can speak in ways that you've never imagined
Yeah.
if you're willing to listen,
For sure.
which is great. And one thing I wanted to note about your story and about some suggestions that you had is it can almost be so countercultural because we live in this very like hyper individualistic world of it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind with community, and where, and I find for like a lot of the guys that I know, they do find it hard to keep connections when they're not in physical proximity to each other, and that almost intentionality is countercultural in a way. So it can definitely feel strange taking that first step to reach out to someone, especially someone that was newer or maybe only came out to a few simple churches before they went home for the summer. But no, I feel like people can probably definitely take something from your story and be encouraged to check into someone, especially if home is far from their region.
Yeah, I mean, if you're close to like your region, like I am, it's definitely a good idea to pop in there once or twice or a couple times this summer. Like that's definitely been
100%.
I think a couple summers ago.
Or another region.
That's true.
Whatever
Or another
region
region.
you're closest to.
If you're close, I'm closest to York. Maybe I could, you know, if like
True.
if you're close to Western, maybe pop in there. I think that's I feel like that often gets forgotten.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. No, it's so, and I love that that's so encouraged too. Because we can, I mean, the whole point of this podcast is to get more familiar faces, and maybe if you show up at York, they'll know a little
I just have
bit
to
more
wait till
about
June
you
when
and
this
your
airs.
story. Yeah. But yeah, no, that's the whole point, is to get to know our brothers and sisters a little bit more, and it can definitely feel like there's a lot of physical space between us, but we are working for the same kingdom, just in different physical locations. So no, I'm just hearing MJ in my ear saying we're at like 28 minutes. He's been giving me the countdowns.
I love that.
Thank you, MJ. But yeah, well, we're at 28 minutes, so we'll just do a little wrap up here. But thank you so much. I hope that we're encouraged by your story today, Caleb. I think there is a lot of intentionality that you noted with maintaining connections over the summer, and thank you for agreeing to be on here, for being our first guest. This is
thanks.
Really
this has been a fun opportunity.
Yeah, it's been great. Okay, awesome. Well, good luck with wedding planning.
Thank you.
And congratulations on getting into grad school. That's a really exciting next step in your career, and really we can't wait to see where that takes you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, that wraps up this week's episode on the Just Like You podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you guys were encouraged about Caleb's story. It was awesome that we got to listen to his heart for the Lord and his heart for the church. And I hope you're really able to relate in some way or to take something from this episode. Make sure to tune in next week. We'll have another interview for you, and you'll get to see me again. Alrighty, guys. Well, we'll sign it off here, and thanks for tuning in. Catch you next week on the Just Like You podcast.